Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Two Bellinis. I'm Bellini number one,
And
Sue.
I'm Bellini number two, Bridget.
Good morning, my beautiful BFE.
Good morning to you, my dear.
How are you?
I'm good. And you?
Good. So, on today's episode 4, we're going to continue discussing, but this is when a loved one gets sick when you are out of state, which
Yes.
I thought would be a wonderful topic today since Bridget has been dealing with that side of it. Her loved ones were in another state. And so I thought it'd be great to share your side of that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you very much. And if I may, before we start, today is March 20th, 2025, and this is the second anniversary of the passing of my beautiful mom, Rita, Mama Rita. And so I would like to lift a glass to my
Cheers,
mom,
Mama.
who also loved a good glass of champagne. Cheers to her and
Cheers, Mama. Oh,
cheers to
I
Mama
just
Rita,
there it is.
the best mom in the world.
Agreed.
And I love her. And I'm here to testify very quickly that grief does change and it becomes something not only bearable, but something to celebrate. I'm 2 years out, my family's 2 years out, and it's just the way she would want it under the circumstances. We love our lives, we love each other. And so hopefully I can help share some of the things that I learned when she was sick and when other members of my family were sick. So thank you for that.
So yeah, so if you're okay, I want to give like a little. You're okay with like a little story or like little backstory.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so kind of the reason I wanted to chat about it, number one, was the anniversary of Sweet Mama Rita. And I thought the irony of us having a talk today. But the other side of it is we support each other through this whole process of everyone that we have gone through. It's just been a nonstop support system. But I watched you from afar navigate not only losing your brother Greg, sister Julie, brother Phil, and mom, but also helping organize your caregiving team from afar. But I think the hardest part, I think, was, and which I know is very difficult, was when you lost your brother Phil, who was your mom and dad's support system here in town.
That's right.
And so I think that threw you into a whole nother dimension or part of caregiving from afar because you were still doing everything. You guys all had your roles. It was this beautifully well-oiled machine. But then when things started happening and the loss of, sweet Philly, I think it threw you into a different part of that caregiving and you handled it beautifully. But I will say, I don't know how you did it living out of state. It was hard enough being in state caring for someone. I don't know how you did it. And you were so graceful and honest and raw about it. So that's why I wanted you to share it because your side of it is very different than my side of it in that respect. And so I just thought it'd be great to have that conversation about it. So
Thank you for that. Thank you. I
because
mean,
I love you. So
honestly, I love you right back. It is, and it's one that I didn't really think about. I just took it for granted because first of all, I'm the last of 8 children in my family. And if anybody, if anyone would have ever told me anywhere in my life that I would be the one who kind of helped to shepherd the caretaking team in my family, I would have told them they were full of shit because I am just not that person. I'm not. I mean, I don't have any kids. I've never had to be responsible for anybody. So I'm really glad that it did happen this way, though. And as you say, so having first of all, I've lived in California for 34 years now.
I
It'll be
know.
34 years in January. And so I've been away from my parents for that amount of time, but I always came home. I've always been close to my family. I've always been at home. And if you have parents or loved ones who live out of state, you understand that while they're healthy, it's just this normal human interaction with your family, right? They're healthy,
Mhm.
they're independent, they're doing their thing. The most important thing I want to impart and I want you to take away from today's discussion is do your planning now because that will change. It will most likely change that if chronology bears out your parents and your older siblings, and most people have another sibling in the same state where their parents are at,
Right.
and that person gets stuck doing everything. And that's what happened to my brother Phil. My brother Phil, who was single his whole life, lived 20 minutes from my parents. He checked in on them 3 or 4 times.
Amazing man.
Yeah,
Amazing
amazing. He
man.
dedicated his life
Ugh,
to our parents. And unfortunately, he was in his mid 60s and he became sick very unexpectedly. He got jaundice on a Wednesday and he was gone 8 weeks later, having developed a very rare form of like digestive cancer. So you just never know what's going to happen. And my greatest regret, and I've shared this before, is that I didn't do more sooner to help Phil's burden. I think it's easy to assume that the sibling that's in the home state with your parents can just handle it. They can't. You need to help them. And I understand that interpersonal dynamics with, you like your sibling or you don't like your sibling
mhm.
often play a role. And I know that that doesn't make it easier. I have a great relationship with my siblings. We always have,
You
and I
do.
always will, which is why what we did together in caring for our siblings and our mom as she passed away, it worked out beautifully. I'm very,
Well, and
very,
we talked about that with Philly because I think Phil and I are very similar in the
yeah,
sense that we both kind of, swallowed everything because we wanted everyone else to have their lives. And when things are working really well, you don't want to mess with it sometimes. And you don't realize that you need the help. And we don't ask. And I think Phil was not great about asking.
that is exactly it. He is exactly, which is why you guys got along well.
We
Um,
did
yeah,
really well.
very.
Yeah.
That's don't assume that that sibling is okay. Don't assume that that caretaking role is, not a burden. It is a burden, and it's going to get more difficult as your loved ones age. So pre-planning is key. So my first step is you need to discuss the inevitable, and we've talked about it on every show. Sit your parents down, even if they don't want to listen, start the conversation. And if they're visceral, if their pushback is really powerful and they're just not going to talk to you, then take matters into your own hand and start talking to your siblings.
Absolutely.
Have the plan in place, which you and I did not do
No,
beforehand. We
no.
didn't.
Yeah.
We
Find
just,
out what everyone's jam is, so to speak, and how they're what's going to happen when things get hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's for people like you and my brother Phil, you didn't even think about it, right? You just did it. And so I'm telling our audience, just get out there and start finding your resources because you are going to need to intervene at some time
Mhm.
and come up with a plan with your siblings. If your parents are willing to talk, awesome. Start that conversation. What does this look like for you? Do you ever see yourself entering a retirement community? If not, let's maybe talk about how to get help in the house.
Mhm.
Even starting the conversation demystifies it and lowers the temperature of all the craziness. Because if you wait until someone's sick, your menu of options is very narrow.
Yeah. Have a backup to your backup.
Have a backup to your back. God, you're so good with that.
Well,
Um,
no, we all learn the hard way, right? So,
Sadly. So, and what we're learning and what we're imparting today to our audience is the stuff that we've learned. I would really encourage you the next time you go home to visit your parents and your loved ones, get to know their neighbors,
mhm,
know their names, get their phone numbers, let them know that you are out of state and you'd like to keep in contact. I often had to deploy towards the last year of my mom's life. We had a wonderful set of neighbors, not least of which is my best friend over here, who I could call, who lived in
mhm.
Colorado and nearby my parents,
I was
and they would
close.
go physically check on them. So get to know the neighbors, talk to your siblings, talk to your parents. The other important thing, and you and I both agreed on this, know who your parents' doctors are. Make a list of
Yes.
them, make a list of your parents' medications, um, and uh, and a list of their maladies. What do they suffer from? What do they take for it? And who are their doctors? And we also understand that getting to know your parents' primary doctor, their internist or their primary care physician, that person is a wealth of resources when shit hits the fan. Nurses in the house, social care workers to come by, how to rally every resource that you need, both financial and medical. So, those are easy steps that you can take right now. You don't want to wait until someone is sick to
Well, and
start
also
asking
beyond that, I think we
questions.
talked about like you are great talking with your mom's doctors, but
Yes.
also having that release of, like the medical release or the legal document that allows you to jump in and take, which I know your father was still in great health, and so was mine. But to just be able to have that information, to be able to call the doctor and talk on a behalf when you live out of state and
It was,
ask questions.
and that is, so the reason uh, it went really well with my parents. So I talked to my
Right.
parents. I didn't even need a legal document because I
That's
took my
great.
mom and my dad to their doctors. They had the same internist. I
Mhm.
took them to the doctor and I met the doctor, and both of my parents said, yes, you have the authority to talk to our daughter and the other siblings. And we gave them our information so that when I was out of state in subsequent months and weeks, I could call that doctor and say, Mom needs this. We need a refill on this. Because again, as your parent gets sicker, you're probably going to need to pick up the slack from your home state.
Yeah.
And if you have the doctors, the medicines, the connections, and you've already had these
Mhm.
conversations, it's just a phone call, right?
It's just a
So
phone
you
call.
really, I joke because I've become my parents' chief of staff.
You
I
have,
I assume
for
that role.
sure, girl.
um, yeah, so that's my pre-planning. Talk to your parents, your siblings, neighbors, doctors, have a list of medications. What would you add to that, Sue?
So the other thing I think you are really great at, and this is just on the outside of things that I did on top of those things, but you were so great about having groceries delivered.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, you were
Another
so
great service. Oh my God.
again, like when you were out of state, you had groceries delivered. You had someone come over and help with the shoveling of the snow
Oh
because your
yeah.
parents were still in their house, right?
Yeah.
Which saved me that day I picked up your mom. But you were so great about the resources side of that. Whereas it was it a nurse coming in the house? Was it medications being delivered? Was it someone, like an RTD pickup ride that could pick up your parents and take them to church? Could, like you had everything networked
Yeah.
that you knew how to get them to church, get groceries, get medications. When the power went off, I mean, you had a network, which was impressive. And I was in awe of that. So you worked very hard, you and your siblings, to come up with everything you guys had to have to keep them in their home.
Yeah. And excuse me, it worked out. It worked out very well under the
Yeah.
circumstances, and in large measure because my parents were open to it at some point.
Yeah.
And I'll put that in the notes after today's show, a little list of the things that we were able to do. And you just take command of it. You assume if you can reduce it down to a list of resources, all you have to do is make a phone call. And many times you have to be really dogged about it. You have to get through to a nurse, or you have to, but you have Instacart and you have dry cleaners that pick up. If
Yeah.
you have a connection to the doctor, they will connect you with everything else. But yes, counties have rideshare services that are free to most
Yeah.
elderly people. And I mean, if I can just give a shout out, at the end of my mom's life, she had to make it to a critical medical appointment on the morning of one of the worst snowstorms. And I was sitting
Crazy
back here
snowstorm.
and I called Susan and I said, my mom needs to make it to this appointment.
Yeah.
There's a foot of snow, and
A little more. Yeah.
it's a huge amount of snow, and Sue couldn't even get up my parents' driveway. But I'll be goddamned if the neighbor did not shovel their
Yeah.
driveway, and Sue got up it, helped my mother into the car, got her to and from that. And so those things are possible. Rally your tribe now because your
Yeah.
parents are going to age, your loved ones are going to age out of state, and a little bit of pre-planning. It's not going to stop all the stress, but it sure can alleviate it. And so you were just
It
integral. I
can.
don't know what I would have done or my parents would have done without you.
Can I? So
I'm
when I was
so
driving
heartbroken.
across town, like I'm a good half hour from your parents' place, and
Yes.
so I called your dad, sweet Leonard, and I'm like, hey, Dad, I'm on my way. I'll be there soon. I go, how is the snow looking over there? Because I knew what I was driving through. I knew what it
Yeah.
took to get out of my neighborhood, and we had like closer to almost 2 feet in our neighborhood. You guys had a little less. It was like maybe 15 inches.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, there's like 3 or whatever inches on the ground. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay. And I'm driving over there thinking, what is that? Can't
No,
be. I got
no.
in your neighborhood. I could have been snorkeling. And thank God your neighbors out there with this snow blower, because there's no way I could have gotten to your driveway or gotten your mom out. And God bless him for coming out there. And I went up the street and came back. By the time I looped back around, he had it done, and I got Mama Reed in that car. And girl, I had snacks packed. I had water, I had a blanket because I thought if we get stuck somewhere, I gotta make sure Mom's okay. I
Well,
was
and
so
that's just
nervous. I
it's
was so nervous.
invaluable. It's just, and that's a mother's preparedness. So it's just, I can never thank you enough for that. And that's only
Oh
one,
my gosh,
that's
yeah.
one example. We had an immediate, there was a snowstorm earlier in the year. All the power went out. Both of my parents were on
Yes.
oxygen at the time and they lived by themselves, and my brother had already passed.
Mhm.
So I called the neighbors and they brought over, heaters.
Generators,
I had
yeah,
the name
heaters.
of a handyman who got into
Mhm,
the house that night. I
mhm,
also called a car service. I had arranged for a car service locally
mhm.
to pick them up if need be. So I'll put all of these resources,
You
those
were on top of it. You were
I
on top of
don't
it.
know how I did it, but the internet was very helpful as well. So pre-planning can alleviate a lot of it. But the second part of it is when the inevitable happens and you get a call that your parent is hospitalized. They're in an ambulance and they're being taken somewhere, and you need to, I did a lot of this. You need to get to the other state quickly.
Mhm. You
Um,
did a lot of that.
I did. I looked back at my record. So every airline, and I'm going to put this because it's expensive to travel. And luckily I was able to do it, the once or twice a month for
Right.
2 years straight.
Yeah.
And of course, with the help of my husband, who
Amazing.
he kept our life completely sane here, and he made it possible for me to travel that much. When you know that everything's okay in your own life and
Mhm.
that frees you to go take care of other people, that is the biggest shout out to my husband, who I adore. Um,
He's awesome.
he is awesome. Southwest Airlines and United Airlines both have programs that help people who have to travel regularly to caretake for parents. And it's under the auspices of their bereavement fare. So if your loved one dies and you need to
Oh,
get back and you don't have money, both
right.
United and Southwest offer programs there. They will fly you to where you need to be for free. If
Amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it's
Yeah.
astounding because nobody knows about these resources.
I didn't know about that.
They also provide that if you are a caretaker for someone out of state, they will work with you for reduced fares because you're traveling more. So I will include that information
Okay.
as well, because you got to do it. And once you get on the ground,
You hit
it's
it running.
you hit it running. I would
Yeah.
never go to my parents' house. I would always just go directly to the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just need to
Yeah.
roll with it, right? Your adrenaline's pumping. You just go with it.
Hmm.
You go with
Yep.
it.
Yep. You get on the phone, we cry, we talk, and we just get it out. And then you get on there and yeah, it's like we talked about that, the whole like fight or flight sometimes. You just like you're constantly on the go. So
Bonkers. It's
yeah, you did an
bonkers.
amazing job of it.
Thank you. I couldn't have done an amazing job without you. And I think it's just a natural instinct. It is so overwhelming and it's so frightening, especially, I mean, I was very lucky that my husband just said, go, do whatever you need to do. I'm here. I'll take care of the dog. We have no children. If you have children, that's a whole different calculus, especially if they're younger. And then you are called to move out of state, which is
Mhm.
why having neighbors in the other state, friends in the other state, a doctor with resources in the other state, because you have obligations back home in your home state. Pre-planning can help alleviate some of that. And I also, for those of you who do have siblings, build that plan now.
Build that plan. Yeah, I would say you guys were so great about the way you guys talked about everything. I will also say, because I spoke a lot with most of your siblings during the time as well. We texted a lot.
Yeah.
But I will always say the one side as well that you were always so good about is you were so gracious to the staff at the hospital.
How could you
And
not be? Oh
I
my
know, but you
God.
know what? But I think sometimes when you're in the midst of things, you forget about how much they care for your loved ones and how much really, let's be honest, how much shit they put up with, right?
Oh my
And
God.
it's because, and again, that's part of their job, but you were always so gracious. Your mom too. The day I took her that
Oh, my
appointment,
mother. Yeah.
when I went in, okay, here, let's just be honest. Your mom was in this coat. Again, I'm checking if I have underwear on. Your mom's got this beautiful coat on, leather gloves, and this hand knitted hat.
Yes. The blue
And I'm
one.
like, God dang. Once again, Mama Rita is like sharp. And she goes in there and she was so lovely that every person in there, from the receptionist down, and again, it was just who she is, and that I know that's who you are, but I think sometimes we forget that so many people help us, and you are so good about taking care of those people,
It is,
even the nurses and the doctors.
I was terrified of the whole thing. And the first thing when I say that you should call your siblings, I called my siblings and they stepped up immediately.
They did.
And I mean, that's out of love for our family. We're very fortunate. Not a lot of families have that type of cohesion and love. My brothers and sisters dropped everything. They
Yep.
dropped everything for Phil. They dropped everything for Greg. They dropped everything for Julie and for mom. That is how. And I said, look, like when mom was diagnosed with bladder cancer and she had to have 7 weeks of radiation, each one of us, including my brother-in-law, my
I
sister's,
know.
they
He's
each,
amazing too. Like,
they
oh my
each
God.
took a week. We each took a
Yeah.
week. They had to take time off work. And
Yeah.
they would come and they would sit with my parents, drive my parents, get food. It was just an amazing thing. And so when we went to the hospital, there is a sense, and it's something my mother taught me on this, the second anniversary of her death. My mother always taught me to be grateful for this life and everything in it. So
So
when a
grateful.
perfect stranger treats my mom or my brother or my family like family,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It is,
Yeah.
I give thanks. I know our medical care system is kind of fucked up at times, but the people who are in the medical care system are angels from heaven and they are here to help. So
They
try to
are.
be patient with them. They are an
Yes, they are.
amazing resource and an amazing gift as we
It is.
navigate sickness and death. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, like I said, your side was a little different because, like I said, we went through ours during COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, really, my mom passed shortly after COVID. And
Yeah.
so, we didn't have the options of a lot of this stuff because we couldn't go in the hospitals. We couldn't go see them sometimes, or, everything kind of had to be done by me because
Yeah.
I was the one that was the authorized, like I could come in. I got permission to have one person, and so my team got very small.
A team of
But
one.
team of one. But I will say, I learned so much on the flip side of everything you went through. So I hope that we were able to honor that side and give our dads and all of our loved ones the care that they need because we're learning so much
Oh,
and
and that
sharing so much.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's the greatest thing because when we were going through it, it can be very isolating when you are on call out of state or in
Mhm.
state because you're the point person. You don't want to be the point person. You miss the way your life used to be before your loved one got sick, but you're in it. And I'm telling you, it does get better. We've said it every episode. It does get better. It does get
It
simpler.
does.
Take care of yourself, put your own mask on first. And
Yeah.
part of that is
Yes.
getting backup. Get backup, whether it's
Get
neighbors,
back.
neighbors or siblings.
We talked earlier on the last episode about the whole leaning in thing. Sometimes even in the midst of all the sadness and the hard times and just the honest devastation and the loss, to kind of lean into the moments that you have with those loved ones. So I know when you were flying in sometimes, and I told you this, I think yesterday, that I loved when I heard that you would be like, oh, I'm giving my mom like a manicure, or we're hanging out doing this, or we're baking bread. And I thought, these are the moments, right? These are the moments that
Yeah.
make that leaning in really possible because there's such beautiful blessings of moments that sometimes we're so busy cleaning or doing other things that we forget. So that's why I think we both are in agreement of have someone bring the groceries, have someone clean the house, do what you can so you can be with your loved one. Whereas that day I took your mom, and I told you that I think maybe it was after she passed. I said, when you're ready, we'll have a conversation about what your mom and I talked about. But she held my hand so lovingly the entire way, and she told me so many wonderful things about how much she loved me and loved all of you. And it was
Absolutely.
at one of those beautiful moments with your mom, my second mom,
Yeah.
who just I'll treasure because I know that that was my moment with your mom. We all have those moments, right? And
Yeah.
so I know that you guys had those, and that's why I think this help allows you to have those moments sometimes.
It does, and it's under it, and she did. Sue, she loved you so much. She adored you, Susie Q. That's what she used to call you.
You're like, oh,
It
Susie. I'm like,
It's
what?
and one thing when whether you're traveling from out of state or whether you're in state, when you are with your parent, your loved one who's sick, there's a thing that's very real, and I've talked to my niece Charmy about it. She's so wise beyond
So
her
wise.
years.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
called pre-grief,
Mhm.
pre-grief, and that
Mhm.
is a very real thing. That in the chaos and overwhelm of taking care of a loved one, you know what's coming. The
Yep.
inevitable is making its way. They are going to die probably in the not too distant future. And that pre-grief it's this for me at least, it was an undercurrent of deep sadness. But as you just pointed out, Sue, I treasured every moment with my mother. She had a lot of care that she needed. She had
Yeah.
swollen legs, and I tried to do her feet, and my brothers would get her up and walk with her. And those walks and those talks, and we um
And the time at church, I mean, you guys were very I loved the moments of you always telling me, that you guys went to church or you just, sat and did the crossword puzzles or chatted. And those are the moments again that you just think, how lucky we were to have those moments or that you were to have those moments because those were times that are just for you.
yeah, she
Yeah.
the last time she was hospitalized before she died, it was about a month before she died. I brought her home from the hospital, which, by the way, is one of the scariest things for me because as soon as you bring your loved one home from the hospital, you're on point.
Yeah.
They've
Yep.
been in a
Yep.
hospital, so it was just so unnerving.
Yeah.
But I uh, I brought her home and we were in her room, and she just loved being home. And I remember we were
Mhm.
watching this black and white John Wayne movie. He was a football coach, and my mother was the biggest sports fan in the world. She loves
Yes.
this kind of
Oh,
stuff from
hell
our
yeah.
fans. Huge.
And she loved John Wayne. He used to have that
Oh,
picture on the garage door that always scared the shit out of me.
I know.
Forgot he was there.
It's just that kind of family. But we watched this black and white film with a very young John Wayne. He was a football coach. He was a single father who was
Mhm.
called to coach this, scrappy Catholic football team. And my mother had a smile on her face the entire movie.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
so, I will never forget that. And she could recite the lines.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
those are the moments, and
Yeah.
it's in that pre-grief, it's in that overwhelm, it's in that nervousness that
Mhm.
you finally get to take a breath for a little bit and
Mhm.
realize what a gift.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
gift. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think sometimes we don't pay attention,
Oh,
you know? Yeah.
I love denial. Is my favorite vacation spot.
Sadly, mine too.
I know it. What with regard to like having to physically go over and visit your mom every night, and the dynamic in your family, what, if anything, would you have changed about your caretaking regimen with her and your
With
dad?
her,
Yeah, with her and your dad. What could have made it easier? What would you have changed, if anything?
well, again, and we tried, but with COVID, it was hard. Like the nurses, I mean, even hospice was short staffed. I mean, it was crazy towards the end. I would have loved not only someone to come in and help my dad clean because I was doing a lot of that.
Would he
Um,
allow that?
I don't know because in the
Yeah,
beginning he said no because it would hurt. He said that would make your mom sad to know that someone's in here cleaning and even with when she was sick.
yeah,
And so and I got that. I respected it. But I would love to have had a nurse that could have come in and given my dad some freedoms in the evening. Um, Me as well. I think in the evenings because sometimes even though I was helping my dad, I just felt like I don't want this to come off wrong. I just felt like there were times where I didn't want him resenting the situation.
yeah,
Like if my mom had an involved or we had to do a bed bath or something happened, and I just knew he was exhausted
yeah, of
and
course.
I was exhausted. And
Yes.
so it would have been nice to have someone, had we been able to find someone, really to come in and help out with that, either the mornings or the evenings,
Yeah,
just to allow my dad to calm down and rest and be able to go to bed.
yeah,
I would have loved that,
yeah,
but it was very difficult with COVID. We had a
yeah,
hard time, like I said, hospice. I mean, they were so short staffed and nurses weren't coming back and in home care. And it was hard. So that would have been very helpful,
Okay.
because like I cooked and helped him clean and stuff, but I think that would have been nice to have that time for just either just myself and my dad or just for my dad to be able to shower or go for a walk or, whatever, just do something. So
Yeah.
I would have loved that care.
Yeah.
That
Assistance.
would,
So it's about help, get help.
yeah,
And the thing is,
yeah.
I was amazed. I was never the one who would get shit done. And when I realized how many resources are available and how easy it is, I'm like, I am the one who can get shit.
You're a researcher.
Anybody can get
Yeah,
shit done. I mean,
right.
we have so many resources available. And if you, again, the best place to check is with your parents' doctors
Mhm.
because they are a wealth. They'll put you in connection with it. And if your parents are old
Right,
enough, if they're over 65, they're on Medicare. And so all
right.
that shit is covered. And also, I'll put that in the notes as well. AARP has extraordinary resources.
They
There
do.
an institute for aging in all 50 states. That's a great resource. So I'll put all that in there. Just make a list, put it next to you, viewer, put it wherever you can, and start making those phone calls while your people are healthy.
Yes.
I mean, you make a shopping list every week, you fill up your tank every
Yeah,
week, you take a shower every day. I mean,
right.
make preparation for the inevitable a small part of your day or your week or your month. It will pay enormous dividends when the inevitable shit hits the fan.
Right. And like I said, and I know that the care is different. Like my mother-in-law, they're at a facility. But, again, that list is going to help you for our loved ones who are at home, who need
Absolutely.
that care, want to stay home, want to continue as many of their independent life luxuries or whatever they want to do, right?
Exactly.
But you just need the help sometimes, and it can be really overwhelming.
Oh my God. It is. It is.
As I'm like, overwhelming.
It is just, I remember when, my brothers and sisters and I and my brother-in-law, we would always overlap. Like my parents were never alone for more than like 2 or 3 hours in their house.
I know, because I'm like, I'll come over.
One of us would, the next, and I just remember, especially, when my mom was declining and it was the only time in my mother's life that she was scared. And it
Yeah.
was so odd to see this extraordinarily powerful woman finally allowing herself to feel her feelings because she just got shit done for 57 years of my life and all of my brothers and sisters' life. But I remember it was just so crushing and it was just so
So
hard.
crushing.
But I just wanted to flee. I just
So
wanted to
crushing.
get back to California and in my Barco lounger next to my wonderful husband, have a
Yeah.
cocktail, watch Jeopardy, you know. So make
It's
sure.
denial sometimes. Again, because
Oh,
we never see our well, we see our parents in moments of weakness, but moms, I mean,
it's a whole different bag,
it's
man.
they never want to leave their kids, right? And so, which when you're ready, I did find this kind of like I don't know if it's really a quote, but it just seemed really fitting for what we're talking about.
Lay it on me.
Are you ready?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. Bear with me because it's on my phone.
that's okay.
It says, if you are a woman without her mother,
Mm.
both of us, there will never be a day you don't miss her. Never a day when you don't wish you could hear her voice or ask for her advice just one more time. And the feeling of abandonment is loneliness and loneliness. Sorry, the feeling of abandonment and loneliness is huge. It's mind blowing. No matter how loved or surrounded by family you may be, none of it is her. When the woman who brought us into this world is no longer here, it's a lonely place. And you are now she. We're our moms. You are now the one expected to guide, to discipline, to love, to handle everything for everyone. And that is a shock. But you've got this because she taught us well. She made you right and she made you strong, and she filled you with enough love to share around even after she was gone. So go on and make her proud.
Well, shit.
I know, but I thought that was so wonderful because that's, like, again, especially on the anniversary, but that's what we do, right? Our moms taught us well.
Yes,
And
it
every
is.
generation is going to be different, right? And sometimes we would joke like, "I'm never going to be my mom." Sorry, I'm so honored to be my mom,
Oh my
and both
God.
of us. But they taught us well. They taught us to handle these things. So I know when my mom was scared at the end, and your mom was scared, you remind them of that you love them and that we're going to be okay. Like we're going to take care of our dads, our families. We're going to be okay because you taught us well, right? And now we get to maybe help share some of that we're learning and maybe help other people, or help someone, you know, see
Yeah.
that they can do it too. And, you know, but I do think that was part of it. And I saw that with you, and especially with you and your mom. I mean, you took it on. You just did it. She taught you well.
I
Yeah.
thank you. That's the greatest compliment I could ever.
Yeah.
If I'm ever even 1/10 of the human being my mother was, I will have done my job on
Yeah.
earth. And as we wrap this up and get my little countdown clock,
What?
oh, you know, right? I know.
Well, just
I think we have like 10 minutes. Should just keep drinking.
plenty of time. Plenty, plenty
I
of time. Which, by the way, is my mouth? Is it not matching anymore? Is it matching now?
No, it's not matching, but that,
Son of a
we have these
nutcracker.
we have these audio visual lags, but Sue has a perfectly placed mic. She has this really nice like podcast setup and it works
So
fine. You can't even tell that there's, a ship to shore delay.
I don't know what the
And it's just,
living.
I look at all these other podcasts, like I watch a whole bunch of different things. I watch Glenn Lowry and The Glenn Show and all this other stuff, and they have these really
Me too.
neat edited shows. And I'm just like, fuck it, man. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't care if my video doesn't sync up. We just need to let people know shit's going to hit the fan. People you love are going to get sick. You have the ability, and it is just, it was such an honor to care for my mother.
I know. Me
It
too. Yeah.
sounds, I get way more credit. I could not have done anything, and I know my siblings couldn't have done anything. We couldn't have done it without each other. To see my brothers fly in every week and my brother-in-law
Hmm.
massage my mom's legs, put this big machine on her leg because she had edema, and they, would put lotion
Yeah.
in her hands. I mean, these men are just brilliant. My sister, Mary Catherine, was just so gentle and she had all these great jokes. She would sit and do the crossword puzzle with my mom. It was just my
Amen.
mother, every bit of love that my mother gave us and taught us, we have given back to each other. And that is all she ever wanted.
Yeah.
I love my siblings and I love my husband and I love you and I love my life and I
I
miss
love you.
my
I
mom.
know. That's again. They taught us well.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. And she'd just be like, all right, you panty waist, stop
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah. Well, clearly I'm my mother's daughter because, or something. I think I'm tech savvy, but I know my mom was not. And clearly I cannot figure out for the life of me why my microphone has worked for all these times that we did like
Doesn't matter. I can
pre-episodes
hear
and we
you.
tried everything. And then all of a sudden when we actually start taping them, it doesn't work. I
That's
don't
all
know.
right. We'll figure it out. It doesn't, I mean, I don't think
What the
anybody who's
heck?
watching the show gives a shit. As long as they know they can tune in, get some resources, and always at the end of every show, I think Sue and I want to tell you and assure you you're going to be okay.
You'll be
Leave us
okay.
some comments in the comment section. You are going to be okay. You can get through it. It is a blessing. It is the hardest shit you're ever going to do, and it is going to make your life very rich because once you have cared for,
Mhm.
shepherded, and sat
Yeah.
with someone you love as they die, and you put them in their rightful burying place and they go to wherever your faith tradition says they go, you, I never thought of myself as strong. And in some cases, but
Oh.
I am, and so are you. I mean, I've always thought you were strong, but
I've always thought you're strong, so I disagree with that. But again, I think we're just, you know, again, when things present to us, we step up. And I think sometimes we're uncomfortable, but we're both very good about researching and learning and being like, okay, we're just gonna lean and we're gonna go. We're just gonna jump because
just jump. You're
we
going
got
to
a
be
bunch of
fine.
choice, right? Let's just go.
You don't have
And
any choice. That's just it.
yeah,
It's
like
like if
we
you
just gotta go. Yeah,
It is. And of
yeah.
course,
We're
so
so much alike. Which, by the way, did you see we're wearing matching sweaters today? I don't even know how he did that.
I think it's just,
That's friends,
that's
right?
the mojo we're kicking out these days. The two Bellinis, the two old Bellini broads have
What?
got some matching fashion aura about us.
Our cable knit sweaters. Well, again, so the reason I wore my cable knit sweater today, one of the reasons, was because of the comment you made the other day about so when Bridget's brother, Greg,
Oh,
blame on, was in the hospital, Bridget needed me to bring her a sweater, and I brought her a cable knit sweater. And so I thought, I wear my cable knit sweater today.
as a shout out to my brother. That's just
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
why not? I mean,
I still have that sweater. I wear it routinely
I
and I
know.
smile when I think of it. That's just it. Here it is, people. You're going to be on duty at the hospital someday. You're not going to leave the hospital for 2.5 days and have somebody bring you some. I
Yeah,
didn't have clean underpants. They'll bring you food. Take a walk outside.
yeah, cup of
Rally,
coffee, some deodorant. You never know what you need.
rally your tribe. Get your tribe ready in your parents' home state. Get your tribe ready where you live because that community will save your life
They will save you.
over and
Save you.
over and over again so that when you get through your situation, when you get through it all, you can then finally get a couple months night's sleep and you can help someone else through it. That's why we're
Yeah,
here on earth to
yeah.
help each other through. And I am forever grateful to you, Sue, that you are my human and I love you.
I'm forever grateful to you that you're my human.
Thank you. All
Thank you.
right. Well, Bellini,
Well,
we will see you with our next episode. I don't know what the topic is. We usually determine that the day before. But Sue, thank you for bringing this one up. I think it's valuable for people to know, not just our witty little repertoire,
right.
repartee, but also the resources about flying in, flying out, medications and lists. I'll put all that in the comments section. And if you have any questions, list them
Yeah.
down there. We read it every week and we will answer them in our next episode.
I
So
think it's important because so many people are not living where their families are. So many
it's
children
so
are
common.
not in the same state. And
Yeah,
we
it's so
we leave
common.
all the care and trust to somebody else. And then when we need something, we don't know who to talk to.
Yeah. And I think,
So
I just know that doing a little bit of work beforehand can make
yeah,
that reality much easier.
yeah,
It's parts of
yeah.
it are going to be very hard, but if you have a structure in place and support in place, it's exponentially easier for sure. And
And it
that's
gives you
what I
those
do.
little moments with your loved ones that you need sometimes
That's
just to
it.
kind of
Exactly.
allows you to have those moments.
Free,
So
free
yeah,
you up from the worry so that you can
yeah,
actually watch movies, play Scrabble, sit
yeah,
around and be with your loved one.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
all right. Well, that's it for another
Okay.
thrilling episode of Two Bellinis and an Omelet. Thank you so much, Bellini.
Thrilling.
I love you, and here's to Mama Rita.
Okay, my nose disappears. Where is it? There it is. Cheers to Mama Rita.
Here's to Mama Rita. All
Love
right.
you.
Thank you. See you,
Love
everybody.
you.
Love you.